Hey!
Hey, kids!
Oh, wait. Perfect. Hi, I'm Kyle Klucher.
My name is Reed Helsher, and I am also a student. Today, we will be talking about two things and the relationship between those two things. Number one, Apple's iPhone. Number two, IoT, or also known as the Internet of Things. Wild. So, Kyle, why don't you talk to us through the main purpose of an iPhone?
Yes, so...
Or how about just a phone in general?
A phone in general. Okay, so a phone in general, obviously, we grew up in the digital age, so we understand what that is. But anyone that are our parents' age or even older than us didn't always have a phone or know what it is. But the purpose of a phone is for calling and sending and receiving messages. And what I mean by calling is sending and receiving calls as well. And more specifically, I'm going to talk about the smartphone. So what the smartphone is think about this thing. You see that? What is this? A computer. Thanks, Reed.
Laptop.
And it's pretty small, wouldn't you say? I mean, it's not the size of a room like in the 1950s. But a smartphone is smaller than a computer.
It's a whole computer packed in here with that phone.
Boom. That's what a
One
smartphone
product.
is. Which is mind-boggling because in the 1950s, literally less than a century ago, we had a whole freaking room full of equipment that are just pumping out zeros and ones, and that's all we got. That was the information we got. So what a smartphone is basically a small computer. You can connect yourself to the internet. You can connect yourself to other friends on social media, which is through the internet as well. You can connect yourself to businesses, but he's going to kind of talk about how the technology relates to the Internet of Things.
Yeah, so right, the Internet of Things is just the intercommunication between everything that happens in the world. So right, a smartphone connects businesses to businesses, connects people to people, connects businesses to consumers, and helps foster relationships, both for business and personal relationships, without the necessity of a physical medium. Now, all those positives, they do come with some negatives that happens in the world, right? So,
true.
With a smartphone, especially with e-business and online shopping, it's very tough for consumers to connect with products that require a sensory experience. When you're trying to sell a vacation, a cologne, clothes, it's very hard to understand what that cologne's going to smell like, what that vacation is going to look and feel like, how the clothes are going to fit without you actually having the physical product that is being sold. You know, it's also hard trusting stores with your banking information, especially when you don't know them. You know, business is less personable. I mean, I could sell Kyle things for years and have no idea what he even looks like. You know, and that's one reason that people may decide to switch to local small businesses because of the personal relationship. Not to mention that these big businesses and online businesses actually hurt small businesses because it's easier for these large online businesses to get products at a cheaper price. And because of the addiction to cheaper products, which is not a bad thing, but people spend way too much time on their phones, which can lead to unhealthy sleep patterns due to blue light, decline of mental health, can ruin romantic relationships due to a lack of emotional connectivity, not to mention the negative influencing on parenting because parents are having such a hard time disconnecting from their phones in order to give valuable attention to their children. Lots of case studies on that I'd love for you to check out. Not to mention that it's harder for conflict resolution, especially in the workplace, because it's easier for people to talk it out via the phone instead of sitting down and having a conversation with Kyle saying, Kyle, we disagree on this. Let's work this out. But it's much easier to be like, hey, dude, are we cool? On the phone, and then
Stupid.
Really hard for us to connect and move on because it's always going to be there.
Right.
And not to mention that we're building our self-worth based off social media. We're having FOMO, fear of missing out on things, because people only post their best on what we see on our screens. And reading on phones is worse for reading comprehension. Physical copies of text are much better for our brains to understand what we're reading. You know, but with all these negatives, there is a lot of positives. And Kyle's just going to reiterate some of those positives.
Yeah, some of the great positives is that, like, for e-businesses, like there's a lot more competition, so you do get those cheaper products. Whereas like if it was a mom and pop shop and we were back in the early 19th century where like you're going from corner to corner figuring out stuff, I can hop on my phone and be like, okay, I want a new sweater. I know exactly what size I need. Beep, boop, bop, bop, bop. Boom. Got my sweater in 2 days. Because just our logistics is so much better. Also, like it helps us connect with distance relationships. Say Reed and I were far from each other. I couldn't touch Reed. See, so far away.
China.
But with phones and different things like that and like the internet, I can call up Reed. Hey, Reed.
Hey, Kyle. What's going on, man?
Hey, man. How are you? How is China?
Great. Just woke up. I bet you're about to go to bed.
Yep, going to bed.
Amazing. How amazing is that I can still talk through this business deal with you and talk about your family without actually having to be with you?
And it's honestly just a huge blessing that we could do that. Anything else, like knowing more information so much quicker is like a huge blessing. And then also,
we don't need to memorize things anymore.
Exactly.
Because of all the data we can store right in our pockets.
Exactly. Amazing. Also, the business-to-business connections are a lot quicker, and also the business-to-consumer and the consumer to the businesses and consumer to consumer.
Which just allows for a wider audience and scope. You know, you can get products to people that you would have never met otherwise.
Exactly.
Amazing.
And so it gives your business and even your personal relationships a wider net to know and have a wider net. Whereas like if we didn't have phones or we didn't have the internet, our scope wouldn't have been as wide as it is now.
Not to mention the algorithms that companies can do online to make their marketing so much easier, to know their audience based off of Google searches and things like that. Just make business so much quicker and allow you to know the products that you want quicker.
Right. Exactly. And it helps us understand data and putting information with that data, and therefore giving us knowledge as a business, as a consumer, because we can compare products back to back, because it's not just on the business side trying to sell to consumer. We definitely can, like, as consumers, we can look at 4 or 5 different businesses at once for that same product just to see if we can get the best deal. So it plays on both fields, and there's a lot of positives. And I think there's a lot of ways that we can work out those negatives with that physical disconnect of emotion. So thank you for watching.
That's our video. Thanks for learning about the iPhone.